the promise of OLED screen technology is enormous, but for PC gamers so far, it has painfully little to show for it. The excellent 34 inches Alienware 34AW3423DW is the only genuine OLED PC gaming monitor we've seen so far, as opposed to a thinly disguised TV. That is, until the new Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240 arrived. Given that the new Xeneon Flex's 45 inches ultra-wide panel is a direct descendant of LG's most recent TVs, right down to its WRGB sub-pixel structure as opposed to RGB, it is debatable whether the device is strictly speaking a monitor. The panel technology's TV origins are also misrepresented by the relatively low native resolution of 3440 by 1440. And the 84 ppi pixel density. However, this is much more than just a TV that has been reboxed and given DisplayPort connectivity. Here, there is some genuinely fascinating engineering at work. To begin with, and contrary to what the Xeneon Flex branding suggests, this OLED actually bends. From completely flat to a very tight 800R curve, the amount of curve can be manually adjusted. The extremely curved Samsung Neo G9 has a 1000R curve, but it is only marginally less extreme. Therefore, this Corsair monitor is quite extreme when set to maximum curve. Other physical adjustments are scarce, which is perhaps not surprising given the complexity the flexible panel adds to the equation. There is no height or swivel offered, only tilt is available. Corsair rates the LG supplied OLED panel at 1000 nits peak brightness and 150 nits full screen, plus 450 nits in a 25% window, and 800 nits in a 10% window. OLED technology presents a bit of a minefield when it comes to the fundamental issue of brightness, as those complicated specs suggest. OLED panels have no trouble turning up the brightness in tiny windows or over a small portion of the entire panel, as we recently explained. However, bigger objects or full-screen brightness present serious power, heat, and burn-in challenges. The full-screen brightness ratings of OLED screens are therefore typically only a small portion of their maximum capabilities. Anyhow, speed is one area where the Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240 unquestionably excels. With a refresh rate that peaks at 240 Hz, the panel is rated at 0.3 ms for GTG pixel response and 0.01 for full on-off response, which is far better than any LCD monitor. With the exception of semi-pro sports addicts, the latter is undoubtedly more than enough. The Xeneon Flex promises exceptional contrast and HDR performance, just like all OLED panels, which profit from per-pixel lighting and nearly flawless black levels. In fact, OLED technology differs fundamentally from LCD in terms of HDR rendering, and Corsair claims that it is collaborating with Blur Busters and LG to develop a brand new OLED gaming monitor certification standard to evaluate HDR performance. Burn-in is a concern with any OLED panel, but Corsair is reassuring in this regard. The panel includes a number of mitigation techniques, including a full panel resolution of 3456 by 1456 pixels, which enables the panel to slightly skew the image. All of it is covered by a 3-year zero burn-in and zero dead pixel warranty from Corsair. The Xeneon Flex has excellent connectivity and offers the main speeds and feeds. 4 USB Type-A ports, 2 on the back and 2 on the front of the stand, as well as dual HDMI 2.1 ports are also included, along with DisplayPort and USB Type-C with 90W power delivery. Brightness is increasingly the big question mark surrounding any OLED panel used in a desktop gaming monitor, but is it any good? The Xeneon Flex performs very inconsistently in this area. The type of displayed content will determine everything. The Xeneon Flex performs worse, to put it simply, with brighter content. The brightness of the full screen is subpar, in my opinion. Whether in HDR or SDR mode, brightly lit outdoor gaming environments look fairly dull. That's disappointing considering the panel's incredibly enthusiast price point. The OLED panel is much more capable of achieving something closer to the full 1000 nit peak claim with content that has dark backgrounds broken up by small, bright objects. The results can be quite beautiful when you add that to the ideal black levels and also the absence of any blooming. An excellent illustration is the moody bar scene from Cyberpunk 2077, where the neon signs behind the bar stand out against the gloomy interior. The only drawback is that, even in this situation, the panel's center is noticeably, albeit not dramatically, brighter than its edges. The issue of pixel density is another. For a panel with a 45 inches size, 3440 by 1440 is a shockingly low resolution. This is especially true if the panel uses WRGB pixels as opposed to RGB ones, as the latter are necessary for the proper operation of sub-pixel font smoothing. The text does not, in my opinion, appear as bad as I might have anticipated. The pixel density is acceptable for games like shooters, racing simulators, and what you might refer to as console-style gaming. However, it would be a grave error for you to spend $2,000 on this to play strategy games. The pixel density simply isn't sufficient for use as a multi-purpose tool for both gaming and other PC tasks. As I previously stated, speed is an area where the Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240 excels. A clear improvement over an LCD monitor is provided by the 240Hz refresh rate and the OLED pixel response. It's really quick, this thing. The brightness restrictions are challenging to ignore once you're back on the Windows desktop, though. The panel simply lacks zing and punch. ABL or automatic brightness limiter algorithms are used by the majority of large format OLED screens to adjust brightness based on how hard the panel is being driven. Undoubtedly quite aggressive, the Corsair's ABL may not have a heatsink because of the panel's design. Given that heatsinks are increasingly being used to enable the newest OLED TVs to achieve better large object and full screen brightness, that is a significant omission. It is challenging to imagine how the flexible panel feature could be combined with a heatsink given the way it is designed. If it's true that the flexible panel makes it impossible to use a panel heatsink, we'd much rather have a flat panel or one with a fixed curve and a heatsink, which would allow for a higher overall panel brightness. That is especially true considering how clumsy and delicate the flex feature feels. It can be challenging to determine how far to bend the panel as you adjust the curve. The supporting adjustment arm is designed, in theory, to click at full bend. In reality, it often clicks at odd times. All the creaking, cracking, and clicking will also be unsettling to anyone with mechanical sympathy. Overall, the performance of the Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240 is very inconsistent. At this price, the relatively low resolution and pixel density on their own are pretty hard to take. Therefore, the remainder of the experience must be exceptional. Sadly, no, it isn't. In absolute terms, the full screen brightness is subpar and varies widely across the panel. The adjustable panel curve, meanwhile, doesn't significantly improve the user experience and may even limit the brightness by forbidding the use of a heatsink to some extent. The Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240, more than any other display, serves as a stark reminder of how HDR-related issues still exist. While OLED panels provide amazing black levels, full-screen brightness on bigger displays like this one still poses significant challenges. Mini LED monitors, of course, have their own set of problems, and currently very few monitors are capable of handling both the highs and lows in brightness while precisely controlling everything. Unfortunately, the Xeneon Flex doesn't buck this trend. The Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240. This isn't the big screen monitor you've been waiting for to truly fulfill the promise of OLED technology. The Corsair Xeneon Flex 45WQ HD 240 has all too obvious brightness limitations, and at this price, the resolution and pixel density are very difficult to justify. The flexible panel technology isn't exactly a game changer either. The pixel response is excellent, and the Xeneon Flex does have clear advantages over LCD displays with the right HDR content. The wow factor that you would expect from a product with a premium price and OLED panel technology is, however, much more frequently lacking. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and support my channel.